Hi, and welcome to episode 421 of Control Talk Now, your HVAC and Smart Building Controls podcast for the week ending July 23rd, 2023. My goodness, 7/23/23. We're halfway through the summer. Dog days are getting ready to come around. Football season's getting ready to start. Kenny Smyers is betting on his Pittsburgh Steelers, and I hope you are having a wonderful summer. So my guest this week is somebody I've had conversations with over the years, but I got to tell you, this is one of the best conversations I think I've ever had with him. His name is Ken Sinclair, the founder of AutomatedBuildings.com. And Ken is just an amazing human being. He's contributed so much to the industry. And I felt like this is maybe one of our most intimate conversations in terms of just sort of relaxing, two guys talking, not necessarily doing a podcast. I think you're going to enjoy it, so stay tuned for that. But hey, before we get to that, a word from this week's sponsor, ABB. Sponsor this week, ABB. So ABB is such a cool company, man. They have so many different products and different product offerings. And most of us own for variable frequency drives. At least I did. They do a lot of metering, a lot of cool stuff. And obviously the building AI is a really cool product as well. I had a chance to meet Julie Patrone and some of her team at Realcomm Icon. Good folks. Be sure to check it out. All right, so there you go, man. We're getting ready to hit third quarter. I don't know what you're thinking marketing budget-wise, but if you've got a new product launch, or maybe you just want to give your brand a little bit of a boost, Control Trends has all kinds of great marketing opportunities now. Whether or not it's sponsoring a commercial, sponsoring one of our newsletters, or running some banner ads. We've got all kinds of packages that sort of fit any budget. If you've got the products, I got the platform. I'll leave a link in the show notes. All right, Eric Stromquist. I am here with a friend, an old friend, a new friend, a friend in general, a friend in need, a friend indeed, the one and only Ken Sinclair from AutomatedBuildings.com. Man, Ken, man, it's so good to catch up with you. How you been?
Been good. Been watching your podcasts. You're really busy, hammering out lots of them, lots of interesting discussions.
Well, we got a lot of interesting people in our industry, and I know you've been busy on your site too with great articles, which we'll get to a couple of those here in a little bit. But hey, man, first things first, what is the proper gift to give somebody on the 25th anniversary? Does this have anything to do with Chicago?
I don't know. You were actually just at Realcomm, and it was their 25th anniversary. I guess one of the big events there is they recognized Scott Cochran for all of the work he had done, which both you and I know Scott and know all the work he's done for the industry. So I was really pleased with that. So maybe we can do that. Maybe we can acknowledge some of the people who made automated buildings great. And that you would definitely be one of those.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. I appreciate it. So we're going to be planning something in Chicago then in conjunction with AHR then?
Yes. Okay. So we're teaming up with our production team, Cochrane Supply. They did a great job of bringing the show to Atlanta, and now we're all off to Chicago. It is our 25th year of automated buildings. It's actually our only 24th year of presenting at AHR, and the reason for that is because of COVID. They actually canceled one of the Chicago show, so we're one show short of a full load. So other than that, no problem.
Well, it's funny because I asked Jim Young from Realcomm Ibicon, I mean, what's an appropriate gift on your 25th anniversary in business? He said, advertise on our site. And I think if you're looking for a gift to give Ken, man, that's a great gift right there. Just run an ad on his site, become one of his Talking Walls partners, right?
That's right. Sponsors, basically help sponsor the library. We're trying to reinvent automated buildings and get it out of the hands of Ken Sinclair and get it into the hands of the industry. And I think we're making progress. We're building up sponsors and we're building up contributing editors. I'm seeing that we're going to have a lot of contributing editors. Everyone's so busy that I don't get inundated with subject matter. But when it comes, it's usually amazing because they've been working on something for a year and then they write a little bit of an article about it. So good stuff.
Well, no, it's great. And it's such a great opportunity you give people with that, Ken. And a couple of things. First of all, new website looks fantastic. Really looks good. I like the new look and feel of it. And I can tell you, as somebody who, spends a lot of time with sales and marketing, a lot of time, talking about personal branding. I mean, there's no better way to enhance your personal brand than to be a contributing editor on Ken's site or submit an article. I mean, that's one way you get found by other people. It enhances your expertise. And Ken, it's a great opportunity you're offering people to be able to post their knowledge and their skills on your website.
Thank you very much for that. We're really pleased too that there's a couple of things going on there. Is first of all, they can post directly in their own words and their own editor. They basically get a sign on and they actually create their thing. Comes to me as long as they haven't said anything bad about me. I push the button and put it online. The other thing is that we're getting frustrated with the annoying ads that are just always flying by us. And so when they do post, they get complete control of the screen. If they wish to flash some ads through, that's their call. But typically, they've been very professional and written about their new product and told us all about it and have some great pictures and then link off to their website to get more information. So that's really the kind of library content we want. And then our contributing editors tend to chit-chat a little bit about that and what's going on and bring us some of the new news. So it's working out well. September will be the year anniversary of our new site, so it's coming up soon as well. So anyway, pretty pleased with how the industry embraced it.
Yeah, well, it's a gorgeous site. If you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, automatedbuildings.com, you're going to like the way it looks. It looks really good. But and speaking of that, Ken, man, so many great posts that are up, but there was a very interesting one in the not too distant past called about a concept called the connected contractor. What can you tell me about that?
Okay, I write a column once a month for Connected Contractors. It's called Contractor Magazine. It's kind of evolved away from the original thing I was writing for. It's good because it inspires me to kind of pull together all my content and move forward. Our last article was called Review, Renew, Retread Real Relationships. And if you take a look at the word relationships, it's got real right inside of it, which is good. And I think that's an important thing we need to do as an industry. We need to reach out and grab all these relationships that have made us great over the last 25 years. I think you said it's 20 years for you, and everybody's been in this industry for a long time, and we're all changing, we're all evolving. And I think the other thing we kind of lost track of is we're so busy changing and reinventing ourselves that we kind of imagine that all of our relationships aren't changing. But when we actually go back and take a look at what they're doing, all of them are doing amazing stuff. And we have that strong connection. I listened to your podcast with Code, and Code's one of our sponsors, and that was just an amazing story. So I really enjoyed that. But his comment was about the people you believe in and the people you work with. So I think as an industry, we need to reach back and let's just take a look at how we are evolving. We're all kind of frustrated. We're not evolving. We think IT is the new game in town, but how we interface with it, I think, is a bigger story and a bigger action play. So anyway, that's what I was clumsily putting my message about. And inside of that, we had one of our original contributing editors. You may remember a guy called Paul Yerlich. And
yes.
Paul and I have history that goes back way far. Actually, when he left Train, we had a little chit chat, and I advised him to start up his new company, which he did. I confirmed that he should start up his new company. Remember the old days of Obix and stuff like that. We chatted about that. Paul took over when I originally wrote the automation column for Engineered Systems, and Paul took over from me from that, and then he became one of our contributing editors. So he's been with us forever. But what happened is Paul reached out to me because he's been working with Berkeley Labs, Department of Energy, and they've developed a program that writes the specification for controls based on the ASHRAE standards. You basically select which standards you want to have. You push the button, and it starts writing the strategies and stuff like that. So here you go, somebody from the past doing something really timely. I asked him back as a contributing editor, and he's agreed. So there you go. I'm recycling my contributing editors.
Yeah, so that's great. You got Paul back. That's really awesome. So I think we got to get more of the folks that have been there and done that to contribute. We need to get Paul Oswald back too.
Oh, Paul Oswald.
Yeah, we need to look at trying to get Paul Oswald back. You know, John Petsy, if you're listening to this, as we're fond of saying at Haystack, put down the mojito and come back. It's time to put the mojito down, John. You know, we need some of your wisdom back in our industry. But that's great, Ken. That's really, really exciting. Any other editors you're really happy with? I mean, obviously Nicholas. You know, I had him on the show, and he's one of your contributing editors, and what a phenomenal guy he is.
Yes, actually, it's his visions are well beyond our present time, our present place and time, and actually that's. I think that's another aspect of all of this is how we interpret that and how we celebrate that and how we move forward. I think we've all had the experiences of, seeing a change in the industry that was bigger than us and just kind of trying to jump on it and help promote it. And, for me, it was DDC and the original things has just opened my mind. And then we had web services, and now we're into the future vision of cloud native buildings, and I'm trying to get my head around that.
We'll talk about that real quick. You say cloud native. Well, for our audience out here who might not know, let's give them a little stable datum. How do you define cloud native?
Well, if you just let me skip to my prompt screen here.
Aha. Look at you. You got prompts. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. You got prompts.
I'm an old guy. I have to strap on as much memory as I can possibly find.
Nothing wrong with that, my friend.
I'm going to jump into a quote from Harbor Research, and I thought was pretty interesting. And it starts out with, it says, today we are creating data at a faster rate than we are building and deploying bandwidth. And if anyone has wondered how fast we are moving towards fully distributed systems and intelligence, then consider that there is more processing power in smartphones and devices than in all the servers and storage devices and data centers on the earth today. Isn't that an interesting observation?
Yeah. So it's not cloud to edge, it's cloud to hand, right?
Right. And the other thing is in Nicholas's interview with you, the cloud native was touched on, and he said that in his mind, it's not so much cloud native as it is edge native, in the fact that a lot of this information is going to exist in the edge on the devices. And us as kind of edgy people that supply controls in the industry, I think that's kind of an interesting concept. So on Monday Live, we've been trying to define the future vision of cloud native, and it's been defined by the IT folks as a thing. The basic upshot of it, I guess, is that the cloud becomes the computer. There is no computer. It's basically you use cloud apps. And the other thing is you can basically put together as many clouds as you want. And this starts to solve some of our silo problems, that we can actually reach over to a cloud that has a silo inside of it and start pulling information out of it.
Now, that's fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. So the overlaying clouds could solve the silo problem. Say more about how you see that working, Ken. That's a really fascinating concept.
Well, I think what we're seeing in the big picture, and I'm probably the least versed person to talk about this, but sometimes the person who understands it the least can kind of dumb it down so we can make some sense out of it. What we sort of see happening is that the large identities such as Microsoft, which has a great presence with Azure, and they are now heavily invested in Chat GPT as they own that, and they've made that part of their Bing offering. And so what we see is that we start putting apps on their database because their database potentially maybe has more features than somebody else's. But the bottom line is Amazon Web Services is a big identity, and a few more.
Right.
So it's starting to, the silos are not the silos that we kind of visually have in mind, which were maybe the major control companies. The major control companies are probably leveraging their products on one of these databases. Yeah. And so anyway, the bottom line is if we can have a cloud native app that kind of steps over it, and we kind of do this already with our phones. When we book an airplane, when we book a hotel, we book an Airbnb, we're jumping over a whole bunch of clouds. We flip into an app and we move in it, and we get the information we want, and then we transfer that over, and then it goes and it gets our finance. All of that happens, and we expect that to happen. Why doesn't that happen more for our buildings? And as you were in your interview with Code, that's certainly a direction they're heading as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because at Realcomm Ibicon, and you, like me, are always sort of looking for trends and, listening very carefully to see if we can pick up commonalities that are happening. And this was one that, you grew up like I did in an age where you had the big 4 or 5 manufacturers and they had their control systems and they talked different protocols, and, your job was just win on bid day, then you own the customer, but it was like you didn't play nicely with others. And then BACnet came along and some of the other open protocols, and you kind of pretended to play nicely with others, but there were all kinds of hidden sort of things, right? Mm-hmm. But here's what I was hearing, Ken. I heard it was a consistent theme from some of the biggest controls companies to, some of the other even smaller ones, which is they all want to be the person that you communicate with that brings everything together for you, right? So it's like we're opening up our protocols, we're opening up our system to accept other people in. What we want to do is we want to be the one who solves the customer's problem. We want to be that one voice you talk to that's going to bring everything together for you. Are you picking up on that at all through your sources?
I think my shot from the hip on that is they're all just trying to recreate a new silo.
Okay.
But I may be.
You might be right on with that.
Simplifying that, but the true open folks definitely are not thinking that's a good direction to go. We see more you partnering with someone. Maybe Code is a good example of that, where you might want to just work very closely with your people, and your people are really not any of the control companies.
Interesting. Well, and that's what was funny, because the controls companies were really adamant about the fact that they were open and going to make it available where they could work with even other control companies, right? Mm-hmm. And, I'm just wondering if maybe that's just a response to what you just said. Maybe they're seeing this whole thing about, the clouds connecting and silos disappearing, and they're trying to get out in front of it. Because certainly playing the proprietary game is not going to work for anybody anymore, I don't think. Do you?
No. And we've also been working and chatting on Monday Live about what we're calling the IBB. And actually, if you've been in the industry long enough, you know that was originally the Interoperability Blues Band.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Put the mojito down, John, and come back. The band needs you, John.
Yeah.
Or bring the mojito with you.
so the IBB is back as a part of the building operating system, and what it is an independent place where this software will reside in the building. And what we're actually seeing now is in the specification, you should be actually specifying where this software piece resides and how it connects.
Okay. So let's go back. So now Johnson Controls, who you started with, if you haven't listened to the Legacy Voices podcast with Ken Sinclair, you got to watch it. Ken's done more stuff than most people do in 10 lifetimes. So Johnson Controls calls you in and goes, Ken, we're seeing this stuff. How do we position ourselves so we can be in it on this game? I mean, if you're a manufacturer, what's your advice to the controls manufacturers now? I mean, they've got to differentiate somehow, right?
I think it's all about relationships. And obviously with Johnson, it was always that it was either a Johnson campus or it wasn't a Johnson campus, and the financing and everything is just, that's been the direction they've generally have controlled their large markets. And I think that'll be the same. And the fact that they can offer this kind of an offering, a cloud native solution, I think is valuable.
All right. Very cool. For our audience who might not know, my audience who might not know yours knows what it is. Tell our audience about Monday Live, what it is and how they can get it.
Monday Live is a podcast, I guess we do every Monday. There's a bunch of us, and we're just trying to figure out how the smarter, what we need to do to move the smarter building industry ahead. There's been all kinds of spin-offs. There's been connection with the government to try and raise the profile of the smart. We don't like calling it the smart building industry. We like calling it the smarter building industry. And the reason we do that is we feel that it's in transition, and it isn't as smart as it's ever going to be. It's just getting smarter every day. So some of the spin-off groups of Monday Live are C4SB, which is the Coalition for Smarter Buildings.
Okay.
And that has gone to Washington, D.C. and has done some lobbying and has got some traction, has got an apprenticeship program going. They basically have also looked at specifications in the 2525. They have that division. And they've got a young professionals group now that's working. We're trying to get younger people into the industry. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Another part of Monday Live is what we call a smarter stack. And we basically have created the network stack and what level every piece kind of participates, which is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. So anyway, that's all there. Every one of our Monday Live sessions is there. You can go back and take a look at it and listen to the people.
Is the website Monday Live or is it Monday Alive?
No, Monday Live, all one word, and live.
.com? So mondaylive.com?
I think it's .org.
.org. Okay, cool. Definitely worth checking out. I mean, you and Anto and Mark Peacock and the rest of the gang have just done a marvelous job with that. So
it's Monday Live, all one word, .org.
Very, very cool.
I can put it in the chat or something if you want.
Yeah, I will for sure. Yeah. And listen, a lot of new people. It seems like the globe is getting smaller. I know that you and I both have a friend from New Zealand, Brian Collins. What can you tell our audience about Brian and what he's been doing on automatedbuildings.com?
I kind of see him as the Eric of New Zealand. The first time I met him, and he's like you. Both you guys want to be Cronkite, I think, in the end.
I want to be Mick Jagger or Keith Richard, but not Walter Cronkite. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he's a marketer, and he works with his company, and so he's been writing all their marketing. And so I invited him as a contributing editor because I saw he had kind of special powers like you do. And the marketing is a big puzzle for all of us, and I think you do it well.
Well, thank you.
And the industry respects you, and I'm extremely proud of our relationship that we're flying you as one of your banner is one of our sponsors, and you've been flying
yours too, yeah,
supporting us as well. Yeah. And I've been kind of moving some of your stuff around, and sometimes when you interview my contributing editors, like I did with Nicholas, I blended that into some new piece, and so yeah, it's all kind of coming together, I think. we're kind of the library, so we can afford to be a little behind the times, and we just want to get this recorded. My thought there is probably worth mentioning is the um, social media is fantastic, but it's so time orientated. You post it and you do a great interview, you post it, it goes great, it gets a bunch of views, a whole bunch of people interact with it, and then you try and find that darn thing again. I want to find Eric's. Yours isn't too bad because I can go back to your site and get to it, but I get to your site, but I don't get the LinkedIn interaction. So if 50 people looked at it, commented, and had a discussion about it, that gets lost. So I'm real frustrated. I'm still trying to find out the best way to do that. And what we've been doing is on all our contributing editors, because pretty much all of them are strong LinkedIn players, is we're including their LinkedIn because as a library source, that's something you need. Is this guy, he wrote these articles for that, he did these interviews with Eric, but here's every post he ever made and every comment, because typically if you're really interested in what one of them is saying, is you really want to get closer to them, you want to follow their thinking, and again, I think that's just part of our library, is to highlight these guys.
No, I think you're right, and it is interesting with social media, and I think LinkedIn is a different animal. I think it's our animal, right? It's where most of us go. Mm-hmm. But when you use, for instance, the other forms of social media, the vertical videos, if you will, or whatever, the Instagrams and stuff like that, part of the appeal to that, Ken, is that it does disappear. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is a lot of the savvy marketers that I hang out with, that's where they do their test. Like instead of, in email marketing or whatever, you got the A/B test, you test the different titles. So they'll use something like an Instagram to test a theory or an idea, where they do a short video, and then they'll do a different short video. And maybe they're talking about the same topic, but they're talking about it in different ways. And then they're monitoring how many views they get on each one. And then they'll use that to inform how they're going to create a more lasting piece of content, which might go on YouTube or go on their website. So it's they think about it in a different way, which is kind of interesting. So it's a different sort of tool, as near as I can tell.
Yeah, it's we're in trying to reinvent automated buildings. I keep struggling with that as well as, but we are kind of a different crowd, where it's not just a matter of getting people to read our content or to listen to your interviews. It's to get the right people.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. And sometimes appealing to the younger people is good, but it depends on what the person's talking about. If he's got a complex subject matter, then they're going to say, I don't know what this guy's talking about, so he probably doesn't know what he's talking about either, right. But he actually is the expert in the field. So we have that. And that's the dilemma I'm in, is all for the 25 years, the value of automated buildings has been connecting this propeller head with that propeller head. And, I have no idea what either one of them's talking about, but when they get together, they hug each other, and they create something good. And that's good. But, so there's kind of, I think there's kind of like an underneath network that of this. Anto and I always used to joke that it was like there's 600 or 700 people in the world who actually know what it is we're actually doing, or actually care, is probably the thing. And they are a tight little network. But what we need to do is we need to start pulling in people from, the outside, or as the IT stuff starts to roll in, we need to mash that up. But I do have a fear of losing our core, because our core stuff that we talk about, some of the funny stuff that gets published on automated buildings, I'm proud of, and I get criticism that, nobody's going to read this, and it's like, but the 50 people that read it, it's important.
Yeah, but again, to me, if I might humbly suggest, I think your value is that it's not the great conversations or articles that come up and you never see them again, like you do on the social media platforms. I think you hit it. You're like the ultimate library, and I think that's the huge value, because great content is created there. But more importantly, great content stays there, and you can be found there. I think that Did you ever see the movie Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner
Don't
about
think
the
so.
baseball
Field
field?
of Dreams. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Field
Yes,
of,
yeah, yes,
remember the thing, if you
yeah,
build
yeah,
it, they'll come?
yeah.
Yeah, you've already built it, they'll come.
Yeah.
They're going to keep coming. And you
Put
know
this
what
together.
it is, man? It's just the influencer's dilemma, right? We just, when you're an influencer like you just, you're always looking, how can I do it a little bit better? That's why you've been around for 25 years. So, which is really cool. But I think we also, control trends
The
now.
next 25 is going to be tough, though.
Well, yeah, I can't wait to celebrate your 50th. That's going to be fun. You and Jane, and that's going to be fun. But I applaud what you do, Ken. You do a great job, and I love the fact that you question about how you can create more value. But I just got to tell you, man, I think you create a ton of value, and what you do is extremely valuable, and it's going to endure longer than me and you. Mm-hmm. People are going to be going to automated buildings 100 years from now, I suspect.
Well, so. I'm really applauding what you're doing there too, is to get these short videos, because I think that's another trick. Is in the past we had videos, and like we've already done here, we've talked too long. If we were smarter, we would have said less. But we saw that as something that we were moving away from words, we're moving away from reading, we're moving towards podcasts and
yeah.
That.
Well, it's interesting because obviously, I'm a big believer, and if you want to understand something, I think you agree with this too, you got to do it. So my wife's 23 years younger than me, okay? And I have never seen her laugh so hard, Ken, is when I did my first TikTok video. So I did the video, she looked at it, she started laughing. I thought she was it took her 15 minutes to stop laughing. And so, so I will share with my audience a couple of things. The first thing she said is, you don't introduce yourself. You tell them exactly what you're going to tell them, because you got about 2 seconds to get their attention. You tell them, and then you get off. And it says the other thing is, you always hold the phone up like this above you so you don't look fat. So I've sensed, I did a few of the TikToks. I got away from that, but there is something to be said for, you really got to get to the point right off the bat. It's like if you were a pitcher in baseball, you don't get to wind up. You just got to throw the fastball, straight from the hip. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried to practice that a bit, and it does make sense. And I think you'll get, for our audience out there, I think you'll get more engagement with your content. If you can come up with a catchy hook or something, you're telling what you're going to tell them. But it's also, the other thing I've learned, Ken, is that there's only one radio station that anybody ever listens to, which is WIFMM, What's in It for Me. So you better be telling them right off the bat what's in it for them, because otherwise they're not going to do it. So it is counterintuitive as it is, because, even 5-10 years ago, we didn't do it this way. You got to sort of start off with, hey, today we're going to talk about native cloud and how it's going to affect you. Or, this is 3 things you need to know about the native cloud, or you're going to go out of business. Whatever it is, I mean, as odd as it sounds, the content's got to be presented in a completely different way now to get traction as near as like outside of LinkedIn. I think obviously the people on LinkedIn, it's a different audience. But like some of the clients that I advise, it's like, when we're creating content, it's like, well, you can create content for your existing customers, but they already like you. They already like your brand. Unfortunately, probably a lot of them are getting ready to retire. So yeah, you want to definitely take care of them, but at the same time, you want to create content for the people that are just coming into the industry, because they're going to be your customers for the next 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. So you almost have to address both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. And the actually, there was a LinkedIn post, and I think I made some hay out of it from Code again. One of their new salespeople started, and they actually thanked in a LinkedIn thing. Actually thanked Automated Buildings for helping them kind of get a toehold on the industry. Nice. And I think that is what we can do.
Yes.
There's two directions we can go there. Is I think we have a resource base with the 25 years. And actually, Nicholas mentioned it in his podcast with you, going back to Steve Toms.
Yeah.
Like, that is great. How do you, like an amazing person like Steve Toms that I knew personally 25 years ago, how do I introduce him to a young mind like Nicholas that's going 90 miles an hour, and they click, and he catches, because Steve Toms was the guy who took us to web control I don't know if you remember that way back then with automated logic, and he was way ahead of his time, and just an exciting guy to work with, and all of his team of folks, and to him to catch Nicholas's attention, 20 years later. And there's a lot of stuff that we keep regurgitating. So anyway, that's I kind of see that you and I work extremely well together, as we always have.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, I love it, Ken, man. I love what you do. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend. That's Ken Sinclair from automatedbuildings.com. Be sure to check it out. And hey, man, there's going to be a party in Chicago, so let's help Ken bring in his 25th in Chicago. Thanks, my good friend.
Thanks, Eric.
So there you go. That's another week on Control Talk now. A special thanks to our guest this week, Ken Sinclair, and our sponsor this week, ABB. So with that, remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. As Hunter Thompson used to say, buy the ticket, take the ride. And as Kenny Smyers used to say, indeed. We'll see you next week.